A CHVC News Special. Last night, December 27, 1962, Stamford Township Council ceased to exist. Following the regular and last meeting of Stamford Council, elected representatives and township officials spoke briefly. CHVC tape recorded this meeting with Reeve Edward E. Mitchelson as chairman. The program will be turned over to the Lundy's Lane Historical Museum to be included with other artifacts from Stamford Council. Now to the last Reeve of Stamford Township, Mr. Ed Mitchelson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Reeve of Stamford Township, I wish to take this opportunity to thank most sincerely the radio station CHVC for being present at the last council meeting of the Council of the Township of Stamford. This is indeed a historic occasion and one which will live for a long time in the memories of a great many of us who live in this area. An historic occasion is, at least history is not only being made in that something new is being created, but that something that has lasted in this area for 112 years as a legally constituted township is indeed historic. So through the cooperation of radio station CHVC, it is now possible for each member of council to say a few words as a result of his or her experience on council and some of the reactions that they have received as a result of being able to serve the people in public office. And I propose to call on Deputy Reeve McBain first. It will be necessary, of course, for each member of council to leave their seat and proceed to the standing microphone. I wonder if Deputy Reeve McBain, would you take this opportunity of speaking a few words of wisdom at this historic moment.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Mr. Reeve and members of council, as the last Deputy Reeve and Chairman of Finance of Stamford, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Reeve and all members of council and the staff for their help and cooperation in 1962. They have served Stamford well in the last year of its existence, as they have for many years previous to this one. As chairman of the negotiating committee for Stamford this year and last year, I would like to say also how good the relationship has been between the Corporation of Township of Stamford and the union, and how good our labor relations are, and to thank the employees and their negotiating staff for their cooperation also. I hope that the same spirit of cooperation will exist between the new corporation of the City of Niagara Falls and the new union in 1963 and in the other years that lie ahead. I think, Mr. Reeve, it is also fitting, since I will be one of the members of Stamford Council who will not be on the new council of the City of Niagara Falls, that I should say that I wish each member individually of the new City Council and the mayor and the new City Council in a body every success in 1963, and I know that the people of the new municipality will appreciate what you will do. I know that there will be problems and there will be difficulties, but that I know you will face up to them as you have in the years gone by when you served Stamford. And I know the people will appreciate what you will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Reeve McBain. I'm going to ask the man sitting immediately right of Deputy Reeve McBain, Councillor Harlan Potter, to speak at this time. Councillor Potter.
Members of the radio audience, Mr. Reeve, officials of the Township of Stamford, and my fellow councillors. I want to assure you that it has been a real pleasure for me to have been a member of the last two 1961 and 62 years on Stamford Council. This is our last meeting. There is more or less a tone of regret to that effect. But I want to assure you that the 1962 Council, headed by Reeve Mitchelson and ably assisted by Deputy Reeve Al McBain, has done a wonderful job, as well as the rest of the councillors. Reeve Mitchelson and Deputy Reeve McBain have served you well on the County Council, have always looked after your interest in a very untiring and splendid way, and deserving of the highest commendation. Stamford is not lost. Stamford will continue to exist. It is one of the finest communities in the province of Ontario, and I assure you that the new members of council that go in to help to form the governing body of the new city will do everything in its power to maintain the name of Stamford forever, because we own and love it. And you can rest assured that things will be well looked after and your interests will be able to be taken care of by all of us. I thank you for the privilege of serving you in the past, and I hope to serve you better and bigger in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Potter. The next person who will address you is Councillor Walter Scott. Councillor Scott, please.
Your Worship, members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, I think one thing that I should do first is to thank the officials, the clerk, the engineer, the treasurer, and so on, for their splendid cooperation to me in the past 2 years that I've served on Stamford Council. Their staffs, too, have been a great help to some of us who were comparatively new in council activities. It has been a great honor for me to have served on the last council of the Township of Stamford, an honor which I shall cherish all my days. To have worked with this council and with former Councillor Sexsmith and former Deputy Reeve Allen has been a great pleasure. I can't think of any more to say other than to wish the people of the Township of Stamford happiness and prosperity in the future. Thank you.
And now Councillor Simeon Corfield.
Mr. Reeve, members of the last council of the Township of Stamford, it is with some degree of sadness that we are tonight bringing down the curtain on the last and final act pertaining to Stamford as we all have known it over the years. It is 30 years ago since I first was elected to Stamford Council. I want to thank the people of Stamford for their continued support, which I appreciate very much. I would be amiss in my remarks unless I thank the two clerks who served us during this time, Dave Allaire and our present clerk, Mr. Huggins, two very fine gentlemen who always worked for the Township of Stamford and gave us all they had. Also, our engineers, the late Merle Kerr and our present engineer, Conrad Oit, both very dedicated gentlemen. And of course, there is no need to mention the late Gustavius Monroe and the part he played and the advice he so willingly gave to all of us. He was followed by Bob Dawes, and Bob has been a first-class treasurer. Ben Pryor, who was Reeve when I was Deputy Reeve, has had a tough job with the assessment department, as the township has grown so fast, but he and his staff had always seemed to have everything well in hand. I want to say thank you to all our staff, all foremen and men who toil long hours to keep our streets or our sewers working at all times. This is the end of an era and the beginning of one big city, and I hope that the new council will work in the interests of all parts of the new city, as I believe they will. Time alone will answer this. I do wish all people in the new Niagara Falls city a happy and prosperous new year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Corfield. At this time, I would like to ask Councillor Keegan to come to the microphone.
Thank you for the last time as Mr. Reeve, which will be missed, and we will have to readjust our thinking now to address your worship, the mayor. I would like to say, Mr. Reeve, that I sat in council with you for quite a long time, and while we did differ on many things, I think in the final analysis we always wound up doing what we thought was best for the municipality at large. It is only natural that there is a feeling of sentiment in seeing the Township of Stamford go out of existence. I don't think we would be human if we didn't feel that way. But I don't think that we should allow this feeling to penetrate too deeply within ourselves, because we might find it interfering with the decisions which must be made in the task that lies ahead for those who will be in the new city council. Now, this responsibility does not only rest with the elected representatives and officials. I think every person in the enlarged city of Niagara Falls has a great responsibility in this annexation, and I think included in their considerations and their attitude there must be a great measure of patience and understanding, because it isn't going to be easy to make all the decisions that are going to have to be made if the people are not prepared to accept and try to understand why these decisions are being made. In recent years, it has been noted that we have had many joint council meetings with the city of Niagara Falls to solve our common problems. This convinced this council and councils in the past that one enlarged city was the answer to our problems. And this is to become a reality on January the 1st. I think that we should all be very optimistic about the future, that we have a nucleus now of 53,000 people to build our city from, and I think it could be very advantageous in putting Niagara Falls on the map as a tourist center, not only as a tourist center, but as an industrial and commercial center. And I think that everyone will agree with me that this is one of the most important things that we should strive to attain. I would like to comment on Deputy Reeve McBain and Councillor Burse, who will not be with us in the council next year. I haven't sat with Mrs. Burse as long as I did with Deputy Reeve McBain, but I found that she was a very sincere person who attempted to find out all she could in the short time she was here so that she would make good decisions. I believe she honestly tried to do that, and I think that we will see her back running for council again in the not too distant future. Deputy Reeve McBain, I must say, was a very able councillor and a very able Deputy Reeve. It might be that he was moving a little too fast toward taking over the head office. This is the only reason I can think that he maybe was not successful, because when it come to ability, he had what it takes, and everything that he did, I know, was after consideration, and he felt he was doing it in the best interest of the municipality. And to be able to accept defeat, as each of them has, as graciously as they have, I think that it only adds to their individual stature. I do not think the people will overlook this, and in future elections they will be back at the council table. I want to thank everybody that I've sat with on the council this year and in past years, the officials who do more than anyone knows to help members of council and the people of the municipality generally, also the employees and the staff who all do their bit and who have made being a member of council such a wonderful treat, I guess I should call it, for me. I will continue to do the very best that I can in the new city, and from now on we must think in terms of the new Niagara Falls. I have to just refer to a past Reeve because he comes to my mind quite vividly tonight. He did say that as long as he was alive, Stamford would be in existence. Reeve Bridge passed on, and as much as we hated to see this happen, it is some sort of consolation that he was spared seeing the township of Stamford go out of existence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Keegan. It is now my privilege at this time to ask Councillor Burse to address the members of the radio audience. Councillor Burse.
Mr. Reeve, members of council, and friends, it just doesn't seem possible that it's 7 months ago that I came on this council to replace Councillor Sexsmith. Time passes quickly when one is busy and happy. I have no intentions of saying that this has been easy. Nothing in life is worthwhile that is easy. I found it very difficult at first to catch up. I studied, I read, I asked questions, I worked, if you can call it work, doing something you are enjoying. However, the assistance and cooperation I received was overwhelming from elected representatives, appointed officials, and staff. I have visited every department, and in each instance, the members there have gone out of their way to explain the various phases of the work of this township. The members of council seem to appreciate a woman's point of view and welcomed me as if they had been hoping some woman would come along as a representative. In this year of 1962, a precedent was established. The first and last woman sat on the council. The city of Niagara Falls had previously had a lady alderman. However, I hope she was not the last. In view of my experiences this year, I would urge more women to offer their services to the public. Women very definitely have a contribution to make. No longer are we pioneers. In fact, to take our place in the government of the country is our civic duty. To those who will formulate policy in our new city, and those who will execute it, I wish for all of you that you may enjoy success, devotion, judgment, and divine guidance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burgess. At this time, I would like to call on one or two officials of the township who have served this municipality faithfully and well, and who have made a real contribution to local government. Firstly, I would like to call on the township engineer, Mr. Conrad Eit.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and members of council. First of all, I would like to go back on the history of the engineering department for very briefly and for a few moments. Our department was actually formed on the 6th of March 1962 when Mr. Kerr was hired. Previous to that, there was some engineering done in the township by a consulting engineer by the name of Mr. Gardner, and he put in several water mains. After Mr. Kerr was hired, during the late 20s, 3 different sewer systems were installed. The Pell's Creek system, which provided sewage service for the portion of the township south of Lundy's Lane, the Muddy Run system, which would provide sewers for that area north of Lundy's Lane, and the Stamford Center system, which had an outlet into the CHVC canal near the Linite tank. During the 1930s, there was very little work done on services, nor in the early 40s because of the war at that time. 3 of our oldest employees who are presently with us, oldest in service, Charles Wright, who was hired in 1928, Gordon Weaver, who was hired in 1931, and Bert Adams, who was hired in 1934. They are all still with us and are all in supervisory positions within our staff. Immediately after the war, there was again a development in services. In the late 40s, we had the developing of further sewer systems. In the 50s, we had the development of subdivisions, which increased our population. I might say that in 1928, we had a population of about 4,000 against some 32,000 today. Also, Mr. Reeve, I would like to take this opportunity to thank councils and council's committees, particularly Committee 4 and 5, for their cooperation with our department. It has certainly been a pleasure to work with the township, and I've enjoyed it, and mainly because of the cooperation which we have got. I might say that when we were graduating from university, we were warned at that time not to go to work for municipalities, but I can assure you that Stamford is an exception to this rule. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Engineer. And it's most rewarding indeed to hear you state that last sentence in view of the advice that you received from your learned professors. And we trust that this is the feeling of all professional engineers throughout the length and breadth of Ontario. At this time, I would like to call on the clerk of the Township of Stamford, Mr. A.C. Huggins, who has been a very loyal and devoted servant not only of the council as policymakers, but all of the people who work for the Township of Stamford and for the residents. Mr. Carl Huggins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reeve. On December the 31st, the Township of Stamford will have completed 112 years of service to the inhabitants of the municipality. We were incorporated as a township on January the 1st, 1850. I commenced service with the township on September the 1st, 1943, over 19 years ago, and that time the municipality had a population of less than 9,000. Today we have a population of between 31 and 32,000. During that time of being a part of the administrative staff, the township has experienced its greatest development. During my term of office as your clerk, there have been many changes, and fortunately the councils in office have been generally progressive and far-sighted in their legislation, so that today I consider that we have a very excellent municipality. It has been a privilege to work with the members of the various councils. The consideration and cooperation given at all times has been sincerely appreciated. I would be remiss at this time if I did not pay tribute to all employees of the township. They have been a wonderful group to work with. A special and sincere thanks is extended to all departments and their heads, and particularly to my own staff in the clerk and welfare departments. My own staff have been wonderful, and I sincerely appreciate their services. I also appreciate the services rendered by the press and the radio station CHVC. It is my sincere hope that the merger of Niagara Falls and Stamford to be effective on January the 1st will work out to the advantage of citizens of the two municipalities. Considerable discussion and deliberation has been given to this matter over the past few years. It is the considered opinion of both councils that the merger will definitely be in the best interest of the public since our economy is so interwoven. I trust that the enlarged Niagara Falls will be the finest city in Canada. At this time, I would like to thank Deputy Reeve A. McBain and Councillor Burgess for their cooperation to our office over the period of their term of office. In the case of the Deputy Reeve, I've been closely associated with him for the past several years, and the last 2 years in particular, during his term as Chairman of Finance. I've always appreciated the cooperation that has been extended to our office by the Deputy Reeve and to Mrs. Burse. I think that the council has been better for their services, and it is my hope that sometime in the future that both members of the council will seek re-election and perhaps be favored in being an alderman at the enlarged city. I would like to close now by extending a happy and prosperous New Year to all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huggins. And it's a pleasure to hear you say those things after 19 years of loyal service to the Township of Stamford. I would like at this time to call on the Treasurer of Stamford Township, Mr. Robert Daw. Mr. Daw, would you come forward to the microphone, please?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. This is an occasion on which there is considerable sentiment intermingled with our regrets seeing this municipality pass out of existence. We are, however, reconciled with the feeling that it is a move for the better. About 17 years ago, I was walking home from work one day, and the late Mr. Monroe stopped me and asked me how I would like to go and work for him. That was the first intimation or thought that I had of entering the service of the township. However, I took the position after meeting with council. They were kind enough to take me on. And I've never regretted the move, Mr. Reeve. It's, as I say, it's about 17 years now since I entered the service of the township, and I've enjoyed those years very much. I believe I have nothing further to say, Mr. Reeve, except to thank all members of council for the kindness they've shown me during the years that I've worked for the township. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daw. Thank you for 17 years of loyal service and for those kind remarks. I'm going to point out to the members of the radio audience that the three sons of Councillor Burgess were present earlier in the evening, this being an historic occasion for her and for them. So, but they have left, therefore we will not be able to ask one of them to speak, but there is one ratepayer in the audience tonight who has taken a great interest in Stamford Township over a good many years. He served on the school board and gave loyal and faithful service and leadership. And he's the only one that's in the hall at the moment, so I'm going to take this opportunity of asking Mr. Alf Beam to come forward to the microphone and say a word or two on behalf of the people who the council administer the affairs of the township for. Mr. Alf Beam.
It's a great privilege at this historic last meeting of our township to extend on behalf of the ratepayers our sincere thanks for your great work, the great efforts that you have put forward for the good of this township. We appreciate all you have done for us, and we wish you well in your new sphere of education and promoting education for this area. And we hope that the new council will carry on the good work of the old council. And I don't know very much what else to say. There's times when I'd have lots to say, but this is a time when I hardly know what to say. If there is a sense of sadness in here tonight and saying goodbye to the old, well, we must look forward in great anticipation and excitement and looking forward to the new. And so on behalf of all the ratepayers, Mr. Reeve, I wish to thank you and congratulate your engineer and his department on the wonderful way they've kept up our road system. And to our clerk, Mr. Huggins, I think we've been very fortunate through the years and having such a wonderful man to assist the council. He's worked hard, and he's to be congratulated in the way things have been run in this township. I thank you, Mr. Reeve, for the privilege.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beam, and we once again commend you for taking time out of your life to come down here on this historic council meeting, and also for speaking on behalf of the ratepayers generally. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it now falls my lot to say a few words. And of course, on an occasion like this, one cannot find words to express exactly what is in one's mind. But I feel the first thing I would like to do is express my sincere thanks to not only the members who have served with me on the 1962 council, but all members of all councils that have served the people of Township of Stamford since 1850. As the clerk pointed out, our township is 112 years old. Down through those years, many people have given much time of their lives to serve their fellow beings in local government, and they deserve the thanks of all of us. This has been a real experience for me, and I have enjoyed it tremendously, and I would hope that the type of service that I've been able to render has been the type of service that you want of the people that you elect to public office. It would be almost impossible to name all the ones that, even in my short time in public life, that I've been associated with, let alone the 35 Reeves who are pictured in the picture on the wall here in the Township Hall. And it certainly is a distinct honor to have served as the 35th Reeve of the Township of Stamford. I would like to pay a tribute to Mr. John Allen, who amongst those of us who are serving at the present time, he was the one who served the longest to our knowledge. He served the township for 23 years, and we were hoping that he would be here in time for the meeting tonight, but we are expecting him. Historically, of course, government has had many phases during history. In the very early days, of course, government was merely a family affair, and you had a patriarch at the head of it. But as population increased and people got closer to one another, groups of families got together and required some leadership. And as time passed, of course, the form of city government in the early days became the form of government, and from that we evolved into national governments. And the world itself today has reached the stage where we need a form of world government, and the United Nations is making a valiant attempt to succeed the old League of Nations in a chance, in at least in an effort to give leadership on a world basis. But as these various phases have evolved in the history of mankind, it is the municipal government that is still the closest to the people and the one that knows their needs and their aspirations greatest. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as a councillor and Reeve on the Stamford Township Council, and I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of those of us who have had the privilege of serving you, that it does require some sacrifice at times. And I would like at this time to pay a tribute to the wives and families of the men and women who have served in public life, because without their backing and support, it would be almost impossible to serve in public life. I would like also to pay a sincere tribute to the municipal civil servants, the appointed officials who do the day-to-day work of administering a municipality. The type of work that they perform requires a high caliber of qualification. It requires a sense of dedication. I know from experience that it requires unlimited patience, and I would say that the appointed officials of Stamford Township have exhibited all these qualities and have given long and loyal service. I want to pay a tribute to the employees of the municipalities, the people who have worked for you and provided the services that you require, because we live within a municipality, have given good service, and I would like to pay a tribute to them. In every election, of course, there are some who are returned to office and some who are not. And I know that the experience of Deputy Reeve McBain, although he was defeated at the polls, would be the kind of qualities that would be useful in the developing and consolidating of the new municipality, and it would be my hope that in the future we will see him again in municipal office. As the world gets older, of course, we make progress, and this is evidence in the fact that at this time we are now approaching merger. We have talked about it for a long time. We have approached it sensibly. There has been an unusual amount of cooperation between the councils of both municipalities in the developing and what has developed and led up to the merger, which will take place on the 1st of January 1963. I think there is plenty of evidence that this move should have taken place before, and if it had, it would have been helpful in a great many ways. However, it is now a reality, and as of midnight, December the 31st, the new city of Niagara Falls will be formed of the present city of Niagara Falls and the township of Stamford. This is not only a challenge but an opportunity, because as we advance, we must be able to conquer new and more challenging fields. And the only reason that merger is taking place is because, as a result of statistical documentation and thorough study being made of the situation, we all believe that this is in the interest of the 53,000 people who will make up the new city of Niagara Falls. So the challenge and the opportunity that lies before the 1963 and 64 Council is to consolidate the progress that we have made, to look to the future, and dedicate ourselves to providing the services that the people of a well-governed, progressive city will require. And I think that we must keep our eyes on the future, because even though merger is taking place, this is not the end by any stretch of the imagination, because there are many evidence which indicate that we must start taking a look at what might be termed some form of regional government, probably to replace some of the forms of government we have at the present time. As a matter of fact, one section of the report that was prepared for the corporations under the guidance of Deacon Arnott Murray indicated that once merger has taken place and we have consolidated, that we should be thinking of these things. So we must keep our eye on the future too. I suggest to you, the ratepayers, that the experience that Stamford has had during its expanding period of time, this experience that has been gained by its officials, by the people who have been charged with the responsibility of making policy, is going to be of a real asset to the new city of Niagara Falls, because there has been tremendous growth during the 25 years that I have lived in the township, and it is important that we continue to grow, and as we grow, we must see that all of the problems that have been handled in the past continue to be handled properly in the future. When I mentioned the fact that Deputy Reeve McBain had lost out in an election, which many people do, I neglected to pay tribute to Mrs. Burse. Mrs. Burse, as she indicated when she spoke, said that she had made history and that she was the first woman on the Stamford Council, and she will be the only woman on the last Stamford Council. I would like to pay tribute to her and indicate to you and her that her service during the period of time that she has served has been of a high quality. We're indebted to a great many people, of course, in the municipality, and I think I would be remiss if I did not make a reference to the work of our police department, who have very ably looked after the administration of law and justice in our municipality, and pay a particular tribute to the men who have served in our volunteer fire brigades over the many years. It becomes obvious, if you attempt to enunciate people and the various work that is done, that there's almost an endless list. We are served too by our solicitors, Mr. Logan and Knight, and before that Ms. Judy LaMarche, and before that her father. And as most of you know, Councillor Corfield and I were down at the reception at the Cyanamid, and Miss LaMarche happened to be there, and she said that she regretted that she would be unable to be here tonight, but she did ask me to extend her greetings to all of you, and also express her regret at being unable to attend as she would like to have. This, I think, ladies and gentlemen, sort of rounds up and is the swan song of the members of council and the members of and the officials who have had the honor of serving you in Stamford's last year of existence. And at this time, it is my privilege to present a resolution to adjourn the last historic meeting of the Stamford Township Council. The resolution is moved by Deputy Reeve A.A. McBain, seconded by Councillor Emma Burse, that whereas this is the last meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Stamford in view of its annexation by the City of Niagara Falls, and it will therefore not be necessary to fix the date and time for a further meeting, therefore be it resolved that there being no further business, this meeting be and is hereby adjourned, and the clerk be and he is hereby directed to deliver this resolution to Lundy's Lane Historical Museum at its first, as it has been entered in the minutes. You have heard the resolution. The resolution to adjourn is not debatable. All in favor of the resolution? I declare the resolution unanimously carried and this last historic meeting of Stamford Township Council adjourned. Thank you very much.
You have just heard a special program dealing with the last meeting of the last Stamford Township Council with Mr. Ed Mitchelson, Reeve of Stamford, presiding. This has been a news special from CHVC, 1600 on your AM dial, with studios in the Rainbow Bridge, Niagara Falls, Canada.